There's a new codex coming in December for the Emperor's finest golden boys. Let's talk about the Adeptus Custodes. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, where today we're talking about the Custodes Codex Release and the things that are likely to go alongside it. Games Workshop announced the release of the codex itself a few hours back in their Warhammer Day stream. It's going to be coming out in December alongside the Genestealer Cults one. So in this video I thought we'd talk about the Custodes release, how they're faring as a faction in 9th edition at the moment, and what sort of rules we know are going to be in the new codex, which they've actually given us a fair amount of detail on. We know for example that they're going to be getting new chapter tactics for their shield companies. So the Adeptus Custodes codex will be coming out in December 2021, and I'd hazard a guess that it's likely to be early December rather than late December, as generally in the past they haven't tended to release anything too close to Christmas or in the week after. They've given us a nice look at the new codex's cover art, quite a few of their most iconic units in display there, a Custodes and Sister of Silence fighting alongside in the foreground, a Contemptor Dreadnought bringing up the rear, and I'm a little bit uncertain as to whether that's an alternate take on Trajan Valoris, or just another alternate shield captain. Quite a cool bit of artwork anyway. I do quite like the colour palette that they've used. Other than the codex itself though, we know for guaranteed that there will be a Shadow Throne box being released alongside. That's the one with Custodes vs Genestealer Cults. I already made a video on it earlier in the day, but you basically get a squad of Sisters of Silence, 3 Alaris Custodians, and the new Blade Champion miniature on the Custodes side. If you can split it with someone who collects Genestealer Cults, it doesn't seem like the worst deal. It is a fair discount compared with buying the miniatures separately. I'm sure that the Blade Champion miniature will get an individual release. They usually tend to be something like 1 to 3 months after the actual box has come out. I feel it's quite likely he's going to be something around the £23 mark or around $35 US. Perhaps the most interesting thing yet to be revealed though is the Combat Patrol box that will likely come out alongside the codex. So far every codex in 9th edition has had one released alongside, and I feel fairly optimistic that the Custodes are likely to have quite a good one. They don't really have all that many plastic kits to choose from, provided they at least include the Custodian Guard kit in it, and it could be really quite popular and useful for building up an army. I'm definitely a little bit hopeful that it should be nice, particularly as Custodes are a fairly easy army to collect anyway, at least in terms of money per point on the table. It does seem pretty guaranteed now though that they're not going to be getting any sort of major model release, nothing along the lines of the Black Templars, Orcs or Sisters of Battle in recent months. Perhaps kind of a shame as they don't really have all that much choice within their codex. Custodes as a whole are kind of reliant on Forge World models for actually filling out a lot of roles in their army, and it does feel like you're fighting with perhaps half a codex compared with using the Forge World choices in the Imperial Armour Compendium, at least though those choices are available if you want to make use of them. Currently in 9th edition I'd say that Custodes are a kind of mid-tier army. They were certainly very strong indeed back when the edition first dropped, but as the general trend of 9th edition codexes tend to be stronger than the 8th edition ones, they've certainly been feeling the codex creep over the last few months. I'd rank them as stronger than the vast majority of 8th edition codexes, but weaker than most of the 9th edition ones. Currently I think that Games Workshop have done quite well to actually keep most of the choices balanced. Most of the datasheets both in the codex and the Forge World Compendium do tend to be pretty usable, and they're not really one of the books that you're just really encouraged to spam 1 or 2 choices as they're just so much stronger than the rest. In-game they can be somewhat imposing to fight on the table. They're all toughness 5 with lots of 2+ saves and good invuls. The vast majority of models get OBSEC, and you can have some easy heroic interventions on objectives. There's a few really quite powerful and interesting stratagems, and you can really build some very fighty shield captains indeed, with things like the Captain Commander traits layered with relics and warlord traits. I think they just do quite well in playing with the 9th edition playstyle of stomping onto the midfield objectives and holding them against all comers. I'd say maybe compared with the other 9th edition codexes, I'd say maybe they just lack a little bit of raw power compared with some. There has been a fair bit of stat inflation throughout 9th edition. Say for example, standard Terminators get 3 wounds, as do some of the Primaris variants, and 3 wound models with D3 damage power weapons maybe just don't seem quite as imposing as they used to be. If you don't use Forge World as well, you are missing out on a fair few battlefield roles. They'll certainly struggle a fair bit for ranged fire support if you're only using models from the main codex. To be honest, as armies to update go, I'm not sure that Custodes really needed to be this high up the list. Like the Abmec and the Sisters before them, they've kind of got codexes that function really quite well in 9th already, at least compared with some of the others such as Guard, Knights, Genestealer Cult and Tau, but nonetheless it's still going to be good fun for Custodes generals. So what sort of rules do we know are coming in the new codex then? First up, and perhaps some of the biggest rules, are getting chapter tactics for the shield companies. They revealed that in the Warhammer Day livestream, and it was somewhat of a surprise to me. Games Workshop seem to go two different ways with sub-faction rules. The armies that have a bit more differentiation between their sub-factions tend to get their own rules and different ways that they fight, whereas ones that tend to be at least fairly homogenized only get a few extra things like different stratagems, relics and warlord traits. The Custodes were one of the latter before, the same as Grey Knights, Death Guard or Thousand Sons, but now they're actually going to get some individual rules to differentiate their different shield companies, so you're actually going to have some different rules to differentiate your Shadow Keepers from your Dread Host. If they balance them right, that could have the potential to be quite good fun. You might really incentivize different styles of play within the army. It's likely just to be a bit of a flat power boost as well, as they're basically going to be gaining rules that they didn't have before. Otherwise, I think we can strongly suspect that weapons and stat lines will be increasing. Stat inflation has been a constant theme of the 9th edition codexes. I'd really not be too surprised to see Custodes models gain an extra wound or extra damage on their melee weapons, for example. I do have a feeling that their stats might gain a tune-up, just to make them feel suitably more elevated from the rest of the mere mortals. In most of the new books, their army-wide special rules have also been changed. Their Aegis of the Emperor and the Emperor's Chosen rules might well be different. I do wonder if they might only get their +1 to invul saves if they're a pure Custodes army rather than an allied one now. I'm sure at least some of their special rules will only be able to be accessed if they have no allies. I'm going to guess that their Captain Commander traits might well be a points cost upgrade now. It could be the same as Orc custom jobs, but at least if that happens to be the case, you might well be able to have more than one of them within the same army. Games Workshop have confirmed that Sisters of Silence will now be present in the main Custodes Codex. They had quite a long time of being in indexes in 8th edition, and they currently had their rules reprinted in a Psychic Awakening supplement. I think it's quite appropriate that you're going to be able to field them all within the same army, and that will add quite a lot of datasheets to the codex. According to the stream that they put out, they will also have an HQ choice as well. I kind of hope that they've just arbitrarily made one Sister of Silence into an HQ for the faction, and it's not just representing Alea out of the Valerian and Alea combo that they released. I guess that'd still be cool if you could field her independently, but having a nice generic Sister of Silence leader would be good. We know we'll be getting a new datasheet for the Blade Champion. From the stream, it sounded like he's going to be a lieutenant-style character, quite possibly no buffing abilities to nearby Custodes, but multiple different fighting styles that he can adopt with his great big greatsword, and they can make him better at either bringing down enemy monsters, characters, or swarms of light infantry. I think the points for him are going to be quite important. If he's not going to be giving any other buffs or anything, then he might well be overlooked for the shield captain unless he's fairly cheap. Finally, as with every other 9th edition codex, there'll be new Crusade rules and new secondary objectives. The Crusade rules apparently being something to do with commanding armies across the Imperium, and getting bonuses if you succeed, but penalties and dishonour if you fail. The secondary objectives might not be the most exciting part of the book, but certainly have the potential to be a nice power boost to the faction, as if any of them are consistently quite good picks compared with the regular book ones, then that's likely to yield you a few more victory points. So very exciting times for the Emperor's Golden Armoured Guardians. Let me know your thoughts and hopes for the new codex down in the comments, or if there's any other details that I've missed in the live streams or the things that we've had revealed so far. I'll most certainly be talking about any other Custodes news on the channel when we get it, and I'll review the codex rule by rule once it's out. It'll be interesting to see how building a Custodes army changes. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention one way in which you can support Auspex Tactics, which is my Element Games affiliate link. You can find that down in the video description. Element Games is a discount retailer based in the UK. They sell the vast majority of Warhammer products at a fairly decent discount between 10 and 20%. If you were looking to pick up anything in the near future, you could click on the link in the video description first, and a small amount goes to help support Auspex Tactics when you buy, without costing you any more whatsoever. It can just be a small way to help keep the videos coming, on anything that you were thinking about picking up anyway. For people over in the USA and Canada as well, there's also an Amazon affiliate link too. That one works in basically the exact same way. Click the link, buy anything whatsoever, and a small amount goes to help support the channel. A big thank you to you guys who have been using those, it does really help out. And just a massive thank you for listening in general. I'll hope to see you guys next time.